6 pieces of advice I learned from moments that almost broke me. I used to think advice only came from books, podcasts, or successful people giving speeches. But the truth is, the most powerful advice usually comes from the small, messy moments in life. The awkward conversations, the quiet realizations, the mistakes you wish you could undo. Most of the things I understand now didn't come from someone sitting me down and teaching me. They came from moments where life basically said, "All right, you're about to learn something the hard way." Here are 7 pieces of advice I learned from moments I didn't see coming. 1. Not everyone who smiles at you is on your side. There was a time when I believed friendliness meant honesty. If someone joked with me, helped me out, or talked to me every day, I assumed they were genuine. Then one day a coworker casually mentioned something strange to me. "Hey, did you hear what you said about the manager yesterday?" I froze. I didn't say anything about the manager. "Well, someone said you did." After a few uncomfortable conversations, I found out the truth. Someone in the office had been repeating things I supposedly said, except I never said them. And the worst part, the person spreading those stories was someone who laughed with me every day at lunch. That was the moment I learned something important. Friendliness doesn't always mean loyalty. Sometimes it just means someone is good at pretending. 2. If something feels off, don't ignore it. A few years ago I almost signed a contract for something that looked like an amazing opportunity. Everything seemed perfect on paper. Good pay, flexible hours, exciting work. But during the meeting, I noticed something strange. Every time I asked a direct question, the person giving the offer would give a long explanation, without actually answering the question. It wasn't obvious, it was subtle, but something in my head kept saying, "This feels off." For a moment I almost ignored that feeling. Because logically everything looked good. But at the last second I decided to walk away. A month later, I found out the company had quietly disappeared. Apparently several people never got paid. That was the day I started trusting something important. Your instincts notice things your brain hasn't fully processed yet. 3. Silence can tell you more than words. I once had a friend who promised he'd help me with an important project. He sounded enthusiastic when we talked about it. "Don't worry," he said. "I've got you." But when the time came to actually do the work, something strange happened. He didn't say no. He didn't cancel. He just slowly stopped replying. Messages took longer to answer. Calls went unanswered. Eventually, there was nothing. At first I kept making excuses for him. He's probably busy. Maybe something came up. But eventually I realized something simple. When people truly want to help you, they make time. When they don't, their silence tells you everything. 4. People remember how you treat them on your worst days. One evening I had a terrible day at work. Everything went wrong. Deadlines, pressure, small mistakes turning into big problems. By the time I got home, I was frustrated and exhausted. The first person I saw was the cashier at a small grocery store near my apartment. She greeted me politely, but I responded with a tired, irritated tone without even realizing it. Nothing dramatic, just slightly cold, the kind of response you forget 5 seconds later. Except I didn't forget, because the look on her face changed instantly. She still smiled, but it was different. That moment stuck with me longer than I expected, because it reminded me of something uncomfortable. The people around you don't only see you on your good days. They see you when you're stressed, tired, or frustrated. And those moments often reveal who you really are. 5. Being right doesn't always mean you should argue. I once got into a long argument with a friend about something incredibly stupid. It started as a small disagreement. Then it turned into a debate. Then somehow it became a full argument where both of us were trying to prove the other person wrong. By the end of it, I technically won. I had better facts, better arguments. But when the conversation ended, the room felt awkward. The friendship felt strained, and suddenly the victory felt pointless. That's when I realized something. Being right doesn't always make something worth fighting over. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is let small arguments stay small. 6. The way someone talks about others is the way they'll talk about you. I once had a colleague who always had interesting stories about other people. Office gossip, drama, secrets. At first it felt entertaining. It made long workdays more interesting. But over time I noticed something. Every story he told had the same pattern. He always made himself look good, and the other person look terrible. Then one afternoon I overheard him talking to someone else in the hallway. And suddenly, the story he was telling was about me. Except the details were completely twisted. That moment made something very clear. If someone constantly talks badly about other people when they're not around, eventually you'll become one of those stories too.